Hello everyone and welcome to the New Year's Bowls recap show. We had some major upsets, huge performances, and surprise teams moving on in the college football playoff. We'll dive into all of it in the upcoming seconds, but before we do, please make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and you want to see more college football and college sport content here at ONIT as we connect fans and athletes through team-based collectibles. And stick around to the end of the video, that way you can find out how you can be involved in one of our upcoming episodes. Now, let's jump on in and take a look at what's in the box.
What's in the box?
Our New Year's Bulls recap box features our locally sourced but nationally relevant headlines for all of our ONIT teams. We'll take a look at how they performed in their bowl games and the college football playoff. Then we'll tell you who made the grade thanks to their performances during these games. And lastly, we'll look at the college football playoff bracket as we head into the semifinals to see who might be playing for the college football championship in a couple of weeks. Let's begin by looking at our bowl games that took place before New Year's Day. Let's start off by taking a look at our games on the 30th. We had Tennessee taking on Illinois in the Music Bowl. This is a really hard fought affair back and forth between both teams, but in the end it was Illinois who managed to pull out the victory 30-28 over Tennessee. We talked about Joey Aguilar potentially being a difference maker in this game for the Volunteers. Unfortunately, that did not come to fruition. Aguilar was just 14 of 18 through the air for 121 yards. His leading receiver, Mike Matthews, had 3 catches for 43 yards. Not enough through the air there to win this game. They came very close to winning it, though, because they got impressive results from the ground game. 19 carries for 93 yards and 2 touchdowns for Deshaun Bishop. Also, Aguilar had a score on the ground. So 3 touchdowns there on the ground. And then the special teams helped them out as well with a kick return touchdown. But Illinois had the ball back at the end of the game, managed to drive down the field and kick a game-winning field goal as time expired that put the knife right through the heart of Tennessee. And that's why they fell in this contest. It was a similar story for USC. They were leading going in to the late portion of this game. Outscored 10-3 in the fourth quarter, though. Goes into overtime. USC gets a field goal. They've got TCU pinned back on a 3rd and forever. TCU throws a check down. All USC has to do is rally tackle. It's going to be a very long field goal if TCU attempts it, or they're going to have to make a 4th down conversion to keep the game alive. Instead, USC misses a bunch of tackles. TCU scampers into the end zone and walks off USC. If you guys were up for this game, it concluded pretty late into the night, but it was just a crazy sequence of ending there. And then I'm sure if you were watching it, you heard the game is not over. Well, the game certainly was over. So the touchdown there sinks USC. Jade Mayava goes 18 of 30, 280 yards, a touchdown and 2 interceptions. All 3 of his best pass catchers didn't play in this game because they're getting ready for the NFL, but it was still a pretty impressive performance offensively for a USC team that was missing a lot of pieces on the offensive side of the ball. But King Miller was there. He's looking like a player who's going to be very solid for the Trojans next year when he comes back. 25 carries, 99 yards, and a touchdown for Miller. So nice job for him on the ground, but USC unable to beat TCU in the Alamo Bowl as the Horned Frogs continue their dominance over the Alamo Bowl. Going into the New Year's Eve games, we had Duke taking on Arizona State in what was an absolute barn burner. 42-39 the final score as Duke prevails and finishes their season with a bowl victory after becoming ACC champs a few weeks ago. This was a game where the quarterback duel was awesome to watch. Jeff Sims for Arizona State was going crazy. 27 completions for 375 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also had 7 carries for 70 yards and 2 touchdowns. Did everything in his power to try to win this game for Arizona State. But Darian Mensah on the other side for Duke, 327 yards, 4 touchdowns through the air. He was hooking up with his receivers for some big plays, took advantage of some busted coverages or just his receivers winning in one-on-one situations. And then 2 fumbles for Arizona State making a huge difference in what was a 3-point loss as they turned the ball over both times when they when they put the ball on the ground, and that was the difference in a 3-point loss for the Sun Devils here. Our other bowl game on New Year's Eve saw Utah taking on Nebraska in the Las Vegas Bowl. This was a game where Nebraska started out hot, go up 14-7, exploiting the Utah bad run defense, something that the Utes had struggled with towards the latter half of the season. But in the second quarter, a switch flipped for Utah. Devin Dampier just went ballistic. He had 310 yards and 2 touchdowns through the air. Then on the ground, he had 148 yards and 3 touchdowns. So over 450 yards of total offense for the Utah quarterback to go along with 5 touchdowns. And Nebraska just kind of flatlined in the middle of this game. No points in the second or third quarters as Utah just continued piling them up. 17 in the second, 14 in the third, and then 6 in the fourth for Utah as they ran away to a 44-22 victory over Nebraska. We did have one more bowl game on New Year's Eve, and that was between 2 ONIT teams. So let's take a look at how the Citrus Bowl played out for Texas and Michigan. We had a matchup between 2 ONIT teams in the Citrus Bowl there at Camping World Stadium. Texas Longhorns and the Michigan Wolverines, number 13 Texas, number 18 Michigan. This was a game with 2 young quarterbacks that looked on paper like it was going to be a very entertaining matchup, and it certainly delivered. These 2 teams played it close in the first half. It was 17-17 going into the locker room. Both Bryce Underwood and Arch Manning making plays for their teams, but in the second half, it was Texas that was able to pull away in this ball game. Manning goes 21 of 34 for 221 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Then on the ground, carries the ball 9 times for 155 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was all over the place, much like we've seen in all these other bowl games. It's the quarterbacks that were coming through for their teams offensively. No different here for Arch Manning as he leads Texas to 41 points and a 41-27 win over Michigan. On the other side, Bryce Underwood, a little bit shaky. 23 of 42 for 199 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Also did have 14 carries for 69 yards and a touchdown. But the turnovers were the big difference when you're talking about young quarterbacks against really good defenses like Michigan and like Texas have. It's who's going to turn the ball over less. And as we saw, Bryce Underwood not being able to handle some of the pressure, some of the schemes that Texas was giving him, not being able to read the defense the way that he needed to post-snap, caused these 3 interceptions. And that is a huge game changer in this one. All credit to the Texas defense. They were making it happen there. Ty Anthony Smith, a great game, 9 tackles, a tackle for loss, and 2 interceptions as he really led this Texas team on the defensive side of the ball. And that was, again, the difference in the game. Michigan got no sacks on Arch Manning, while Bryce Underwood was sacked 3 times. Just defensive line play, offensive line play, all those things that add up over the course of a game. You saw it compound as the game went on for Michigan, while Texas kept a clean pocket. Manning had time to throw. He had time to make decisions whether or not he wanted to scramble, and he made all the right decisions in this game, and that is why Texas won it 41-27. New head coach coming in for Michigan next year, so we'll see how they rebuck up for 2026. Obviously, player retention is going to be a key factor for them. Can they keep some of these guys in-house with Kyle Whittingham coming in? And for Texas, a team that started the season as number 1 in the preseason AP poll, they missed out on the playoffs. They do win a bowl game. How do they retool for 2026 to try to get back into the playoff? Both teams that are looking at very similar off seasons here. It'll be fun to see how they manage their 2026 offseason and how they come into the 2026 season ready to go as they both look for a return to the college football playoff as we move in to talking about the college football playoff and beginning with our game of the week in the Rose Bowl between Indiana and Alabama. Our ONIT game of the week took place in Pasadena between number 1 Indiana and number 9 Alabama. And if you watched this game, there's not much to say. This was an absolute beatdown at the hands of the Hoosiers. It's just unbelievable what Curt Cignetti has been able to do with that team in a short span of time. Alabama in the playoff, they're a team that you can never really pick against, given their history, but this is 2025. Things are different now. This is not the Alabama of the past. This is not the Indiana of the past. And once again, Indiana just came in surgical precision when it came to execution, when it came to being in the right spots. This team is so unbelievably well coached and put together, so disciplined, and that was on full display. Fernando Mendoza barely had to throw the ball, threw it only 16 times, came out of this game because it was so lopsided, went for 192 yards and 3 touchdowns. Ty Simpson took a big shot on his back before the half, fumbled the ball away to Indiana, which set up a touchdown before halftime for the Hoosiers. Simpson then did not return to the game in the second half due to an injury he sustained in that collision. Austin Mack played really well in his time on the field as he led Alabama on a field goal drive, led them inside the red zone, which was something that Alabama was really struggling to do in the first half, but that is where it stopped. After that first drive for Austin Mack, Indiana just buckled down again, and this Hoosiers defense is so legit. We talked about the Buckeyes defense. We've talked about Texas A&M's defense, Miami's defense. This Hoosiers defense is the real deal as they continue to steamroll their way through this season. It was only their first playoff game, but boy, the defense stepped up big, holding Alabama to just 3 points, and the Hoosiers snapped that infamous bye curse in the 12-team playoff. They're the only team now, after the results of last night, that has won a game after having a bye. And again, that's a lot of testament to Coach Cignetti there. This team is always ready to play anytime, anywhere. So Indiana is moving on. They'll take on Oregon in the semifinal. We'll dive more into that as we cover the rest of these playoff games. Talking about our New Year's Eve playoff game, we had Miami taking on Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl there in Arlington, Texas. Ohio State coming in off a bye, the number 2 seed in the country. Miami coming in number 10 seed off their big win over Texas A&M in the first round on the road. And Miami, much like they did against Texas A&M, frustrated Ohio State offensively in this game. Julian Sayin just simply could not get anything going in the first half of this ball game. Miami's defense was relentless. There was pressure on the defensive line. The coverages were confusing the young Sayin, and it was a struggle for Ohio State in that first half. Then in the second half, things started clicking. Sayin came out, started lighting the world on fire. You could definitely tell that Ohio State was a bit rusty from having the time off. Second half, made some adjustments, came right in. He was slinging the rock, moving the ball down the field. Ohio State finds a way to get on the scoreboard, score a couple of touchdowns. But that first half where they spotted Miami, the 10-point lead, that was enough. 24-14, Ohio State falls. They will not repeat as national champions this year. And in fact, for the first time in the college football playoff history, we don't have Ohio State or Alabama in a semifinal game. As crazy as that is. But one of those two teams has been in a semifinal every year since the playoff was introduced. This is the year where that is no longer, and it obviously coincides with the resurgence of Miami and, of course, the emergence of Indiana, who are the two teams that kept them out of the semifinal. So a great win for Miami. A big congratulations to them. As we saw yesterday, byes really have not helped teams. Indiana is still the only team under this 12-team format that has won a game when they have a bye. It's very difficult in the college football world to have a whole month off and then come out and play. It's very unlike what you see in the NFL. Of course, coaches have kind of lamented the fact that you have so much time off. It's hard to keep guys locked in and ready to go. You do get to get healthier over that time, but you're also not getting game reps. So we'll see what comes of these results when it comes to teams getting byes all losing, because you had You had Georgia, you had Texas Tech, and you had Ohio State all fall yesterday, with all 4 teams going down last year. So we'll see if anything comes of that. And then Jeremiah Smith, I know Ohio State did not win this game, but man, this kid is a monster. He's just so good. 7 catches, 157 yards, and a touchdown. He was the only portion of Ohio State's offense that could be consistently relied on throughout the game. And he could be in the NFL today. I know the commentators mentioned that. He really could go to the draft right now and probably be the first wide receiver off the board, in all honesty. Ahead of Cardinal Tate, ahead of Jordan Tyson, Denzel Boston, all those guys. He might be the best wide receiver in the NFL for Ohio State when it's all said and done. I mean, Jackson Smith and Jigba just had an amazing year. Garrett Wilson's an amazing talent. Chris Olave's had a fantastic year with a resurgence in New Orleans. There's a lot of other amazing Ohio State wideouts in the NFL. But Jeremiah Smith, I really think just the way he goes about his game could be better than all of them when it's all said and done. So big props to him. He's coming back to school next year because he has to, since he is a true sophomore. More than likely staying in Ohio State. Who knows? With NIL and the transfer portal this year, he could really go anywhere in the country he wants to. He is that good of a talent. Everyone would be knocking on his door if he did decide to enter the portal. But I'd be hard-pressed to think that he's not coming back to Ohio State with all those names that we mentioned that they've been putting into the NFL recently. Only other school that I could even imagine Jeremiah Smith considering would be LSU, because they have sort of the same standards when it comes to putting wide receivers into the NFL. Guys like Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, some of the top receivers in the league have gone to LSU. But again, I don't think Jeremiah Smith's going anywhere. It's just the only other school that has the same type of pedigree at the wide receiver position that Ohio State has. But I would be shocked if Jeremiah Smith isn't back in Columbus for his junior season. So that would come as a complete surprise to me. But he's an amazing player. Love to watch him. Can't wait to see what he does next year. Big congrats to Miami, though, for moving on. And let's take a look at the other 2 college football playoff games that we saw on New Year's Day. In the other 2 college football playoffs on New Year's Day, we saw Oregon handle their business against Texas Tech 23-0, and Ole Miss upsetting Georgia 39-34 thanks to a last-second field goal there for the Rebels. For Ole Miss, no Lane Kiffin, no problem. They win the rematch against Georgia. They're moving on to a semifinal, and they spoil what would have been a crazy reunion between Miami taking on Georgia, with Carson Beck now playing for Miami after leaving Georgia in the offseason. Ole Miss spoils that reunion. The Rebels move on. Again, sans Lane Kiffin, they are making things happen as they win their second straight playoff game. And they are going into a matchup against Miami, which means one of Miami or Ole Miss is going to be competing for the national championship here at the end of the 2025 season in 2026. Pretty crazy stuff there. So that'll be a very interesting semifinal game to watch. And then for Oregon, I talked about it in the preview show. Was the Oregon defense better than the Texas Tech offense? That was really the question of this game. Answer seems to be yes. Oregon was able to move the ball down the field, score points on Tech. It's not an easy task to do that. They sure didn't score a whole lot of points. In fact, they only kicked 2 field goals in the first half. But their defense is a lot better than people gave the Ducks credit for. And that showed up in a big way as they were able to shut out the Red Raiders throughout the entirety of the game. So Oregon is moving on, sets up an all Big Ten semifinal between Indiana and Oregon. We'll take a look at the bracket in whole when we get there. But now let's go to Making the Grade, where we see who had the biggest performances from these games. This is Making the Grade, where we take a look at the best performances from our week of games, looking at our New Year's Bowls contest. So the games that took place Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We've got players from each day, starting off with our near mint 8s. On the defensive side of the ball, because we love NIL for all here at ONIT, we're talking about Indiana. We're talking about Aiden Fisher. Linebackers seem to be everywhere in this game for the Hoosiers as the game's leading tackler for his team. He finished with 7 tackles, also had himself a sack and a tackle for a loss as he poured it in against Alabama's offense. and part of an Indiana defense that held the Crimson Tide to just 3 points in the Rose Bowl. We had to have Indiana defense on this list, and so Aiden Fisher gets our nod with a near mint 8 for his performance in the Rose Bowl. Our other near mint 8 came from the Tennessee Volunteers. Deshaun Bishop tried his hardest to get Tennessee a win in the Music City Bowl, carried the ball 19 times for 93 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was the leader of the ground attack for the Volunteers as they narrowly missed out on escaping with a victory against Illinois. It was a last-second field goal that sunk Tennessee. Otherwise, Bishop's performance would have been enough to get Tennessee the win, and for that reason, he gets himself a near mint 8 grade here for the week. Moving on to our 9s and heading back to the defensive side of the football, we're talking about Texas's Ty Anthony Smith. 9 tackles, led all players. 8 of them were solo, as he also had himself a tackle for loss, but his big contribution came with the 2 interceptions as he picked off Bryce Underwood twice and set Texas up with the opportunity to take advantage and get some points on the board and separate themselves in their 41-27 win. So for stuffing the stat sheet, Ty Anthony Smith earns himself a near mint 9 for his performance. Our other 9 is Jeremiah Smith of Ohio State. It had to be. Even in the loss, he was the guy for Ohio State. I've sung his praises all season long, basically. He is by far the best receiver in the country. To me, showed that again. 7 catches, 157 yards, and a touchdown, as Ohio State only managed to muster 14 points, and they were shut out in the first half. Smith still got his. I know he would rather have a team win and be on the road to another national championship, but instead he earns a near mint 9 for his big game in the loss. There can only be one 10, though. Let us know who you think it is down in the comments below. But our pick for the 10 this week is none other than our Heisman Trophy winner, Fernando Mendoza. He dominated Alabama to the tune of 192 yards and 3 touchdowns before he was pulled for his brother Alberto. Mendoza had it humming early on in this game, connected with a ton of different receivers. He spread the ball out a bunch. No receiver had more than 4 catches in this game, as Mendoza only took to the air 16 times to rack up 192 yards. He was averaging 12 yards per completion. He only had 2 incompletions on the day, and for that reason, Fernando Mendoza earns a Gem Mint 10 grade and is our 10 for the week. Let us know if we got it right or wrong down in the comments below. Tell us who you think the 10 should have been if you disagree. Now let's take a look at the remaining college football playoff bracket and see what we have coming up in the semifinals as we head to the national championship. This is how the college football playoff bracket looks heading into the semifinals beginning on January 8th, so less than a week from today. On the 8th, it'll be number 10 Miami taking on number 6 Ole Miss in the Fiesta Bowl there in Glendale, Arizona. Miami just can't catch a break travel-wise. They have had to go further and further west every time they've played. First it was to College Station, then it's to Arlington, and now they're headed off to Arizona. We'll see if that travel catches up with the Hurricanes, but they seem a well-oiled machine right now under head coach Mario Cristobal, and there is a chance that we see Miami back in a national championship game, something that we have not seen in a long, long time since the U was dominant in college football. So we'll see whether or not it's Miami or Ole Miss, but either way it'll be the ACC or the SEC playing in the championship against a team from the Big Ten, because the Peach Bowl features number 5 Oregon taking on our last surviving ONIT team, which is number 1 Indiana. The Hoosiers get a rematch against Oregon, a team they beat in Autzen 30-20 earlier on this year. Indiana has been dominating teams left and right this season, but the rematch coming against Oregon, this is an Oregon team that's healthier than they've been pretty much for the majority of the season, and they are not going to go quietly against this Indiana team. This is a game in the Peach Bowl. Once again, Oregon has been getting the short end of the travel schedule. They went to Miami to play in the Orange Bowl. Now they have to go to the Peach Bowl in Atlanta. If Oregon managed to win that game, they've got to go back to Miami to play in a national championship game, potentially against the U in their home stadium. So if Miami makes it to the national championship, it will be a home game for Miami. Make no doubt about that. They play at Hard Rock Stadium, their home games. And so Miami will be playing a home game in the national championship. That could be a huge deal if Miami can get past Ole Miss. And for Oregon, if they manage to get past Indiana, again, that travel schedule may be a huge deal for them as they have to go back to the East Coast for what would be the third straight time. So we'll see if that happens. But Indiana right now has just been clicking. They'll take on the Ducks. I'm sure they have a plan. Cignetti will have adjustments, even though they won the game in Eugene last time. I know that Indiana will come out with some type of different schemes, some different ideas. That's just how they do. But teams who have been playing in the rematches have not fared so well in bowl season. So we'll see how it goes. That game is on January 9th, so a week from today, next Friday. Looking forward to all of these college football playoff semifinals, and then, of course, the national championship coming up on the 19th. We'll have a preview show to get you ready for the semifinal coming out next week, so be on the lookout for that. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you can get notified when we do post it if you love our college football content here. And we appreciate you watching. That's all the time we have for today. If you want to be in our next episode, make sure to submit your hits to the link down below. If you have any holiday hits you'd like to share, we'd love to share them with the community. So hit us up in the link down below. You can post videos, pictures, whatever shows your best ONIT polls, and we'll share them with the community to get ready for the national semifinals and the national championship. Thanks so much for watching today's episode, everyone. Hope you have a great rest of your week. Happy New Year to you all, and we'll see you for the semifinal preview coming up next week.